As our story begins, we see two girls and some other people being threatened by a man with a knife. Seeing this, a young man tries to intervene, telling the girls to run while he tries to protect them, but he quickly gets killed by the man. Dagger-Kun is coming for Truck-Kuns Job. When he wakes up, he finds himself in a strange place. At first, he thinks he must be in a hospital because the room looks expensive. Just then, a girl and a woman enter the room, with the woman claiming to be Kane's mother, Sarah. She is happy to see he is awake, but knows that he must be confused because he had been in bed sick for a week, so Sarah asks Sylvia, his caretaker, to make him something to eat. She then tells Kane to rest and leaves. The boy is really confused because he can't seem to remember who the girl and the woman are. Even more confusing is the fact that he is a mere child. Suddenly, he remembers the incident at the convenience store and realizes he must have been killed and reincarnated into this boy's body. A short while later, the girl returns. Noticing that he had wet the bed like the child he is, the girl cleans him up before feeding him. While eating, the boy asks the girl a few questions, and she tells him that he is Kane von Silford, a 3-year-old, and the third son of a high-ranking noble named Garm, who has an army that protects the kingdom from foreign invaders. Kane becomes excited as he learns that he now lives in a world where they use swords and magic to defeat monsters. He tells Sylvia he wants to learn magic, but Sylvia tells him that he must first learn how to write, so he starts studying. A short time goes by, and all of the family members are amazed to see that Kane has caught up easily and can now read and write. Riani, his sister, even points out that he can do math. Riani had also visited Kane every day and taught him about the Esford kingdom. As he had just turned 5, today was Kane's baptism day, the day where Kane would finally learn what magic he has access to. As the family leaves for the baptism, Kane asks what the status window looks like, and Riani shows Kane her status window. Garm then explains that the magic level ranges from 1 to 5, with 5 being the best and rarest level. As they arrive at the temple and start the baptism, Zenom appears and introduces himself to Kane as the god of creation and instructs Rhyme, the god of life and death, to explain to Kane why he was reincarnated. Rhyme explains that if he had not intervened, the thug would have tripped and been caught, meaning Kane had basically died for nothing. At least they are honest. Reno, the god of magic, then approaches him and decides to give him her blessing as an apology. Zenom and the other gods decide to do the same, and Kane ends up receiving all 7 gods' blessings. When the baptism ends, Kane runs to a safe place to check his stats because he doesn't want his family to see them. As he opens his status window, he sees that his magic is off the charts, making him glad that he didn't open it in front of them. Kane and his family head back home and celebrate his birthday. Later, at his father's request, Kane shows his family his status window, and they are all shocked to see such a huge magic stat, and they all agree his stats must be kept a secret from the kingdom, as they will want to use him as a war machine. Kane understands the request, but explains that he still wants to learn all about the world, help people in need, meet different people, and become an adventurer. So Kane's father gets 2 tutors, Miss Millie and Miss Nina, who are adventurers, to teach him. Miss Millie would teach swordsmanship and Miss Nina would teach magic. To their surprise, however, Kane is already way ahead of them in skill, so the tutors withdraw from teaching him. Kane begs his tutors to stay, however, because they could take him outside to practice magic, and he had never been outside of the mansion except for his baptism. The tutors agree, and with the approval of Garm, take Kane to practice outside the mansion. Kane practiced different magic outside the mansion, and the tutors realized that Kane's magic was beyond the intermediate level, and were shocked that he could sustain this kind of magical output without wearing out. One day while training, a killer rabbit appeared and attacked them, causing Miss Millie and Miss Nina to panic. Thankfully, Kane is a Giga Chad now and killed the rabbit, planning to give it to his mother and Riani so they could cook it for dinner. Having killed his first monster, Kane wanted to go into the forest to kill all the dangerous rabbits, but Miss Millie and Miss Nina stopped him, saying the forest could be full of strong monsters. After some begging from Kane, the girls decided to take him to the guild so they could ask for information about the monsters in the forest. At the guild receptionist, Ruby, informed them that they hadn't received any information on the appearance of the killer rabbit or any other monsters in the area. As Ruby and Kane continued chatting, a giant man from the guild decided to pick a fight with Kane, but to everyone's surprise, Kane defeated the man without breaking a sweat. Later, after Kane and the girls returned to the mansion, Kane decided he wanted to give his tutors a gift for putting up with him the past 3 years. My boy trying to start a harem already. So he hunted for red magic materials from blood ogres to make a red magic bag for Miss Millie and green magic materials from earth dragons to make a green magic bag for Miss Nina. When he was done, he gave the bags to his tutors, who were so happy they promised to help him anytime he needed them. Kane was now 10 years old, and one day after defeated a dragon decided to check his status window, and he shocked to discover that his magic stats was over 80 million. Way over 9,000, if you know what I mean. Seeing these numbers, Kane thought he was now ready to take the entry exams so he could start attending school like his sister Riani. But Garm informed him that he would have to wait until he was 12, which meant that Kane still had 2 years to wait. But Garm agreed to take him to the capital for a visit, explaining that it would take about a week to get to the capital if there were no monsters along the way. On the way to the capital, Kane sees that there is a battle going on up ahead and notes that a few dozen monsters were attacking a royal carriage. Kane decides to help and uses his air bullet spell to kill some of the monsters instantly before using his fire sword to protect a knight who was about to be eaten. With all the monsters defeated, Princess Telestia and Miss Silk thanked Kane and his father for saving them. Kane then used his magic to calm their minds, making their pain and exhaustion disappear. Miss Silk and Princess Telestia then asked Garm if Kane could ride with them because they were still scared. Garm approved, and Kane, Princess Telestia, and Miss Silk traveled the rest of the way together. Once at the royal capital, they meet a man who introduces himself as the vice captain of the Royal Knight Order, Dane von Gazard. He thanked Kane for protecting Princess Telestia and Miss Silk. Just as Kane was about to leave, the king invited him to speak with him and announced to everyone the excellent job that Kane had done, including saving Silk and Telestia. The king then made him a baron and gave him 10 platinum coins as well as a mansion of his own. Another baron, Corgino, came out of the crowd and disagreed with the idea of granting a 10-year-old boy such things, but the king didn't listen to him as he was a mere beta. Kane gratefully accepted the offer. Finally, the king asked that Kane marry Telestia figuratively until they could properly be married when Kane became an adult, and Kane had no choice but to accept, as he could not reject the king's order. Later, Kane met with Zenom, who asked him if he would become a demigod, which would allow Kane to better protect the kingdom, since demigods are in the same class as holy beasts and divine dragons. He also told Kane to use his knowledge from his previous life to create some entertainment for the world. Back in his room, Kane tried to think of items that didn't exist in the world that he could create for entertainment. After thinking for a while, Kane decided to see if Parma knew anyone who could help him, so he went out and met with Parma, who was training. After explaining what he was trying to do, Parma took Kane to her uncle's shop. There she introduced Kane to her uncle Tamanis. Kane taught Tamanis how to make a game and advised him to make a regular version and a separate one for nobles. He also gave him some money to fund the business. As Kane was leaving the shop, he ran into his sister Riani, who had been waiting for him outside. She asked him why he had left his room, as she had wanted him to see how she looked in the new clothes she had bought. Kane told her that she looked cute no matter what she wore, and the two headed back to the castle. What in the sweet home Alabama is going on here? A short while later, the debut ceremony started, and the king thanked everyone for traveling so far to join the ceremony. They all cheered, and the ceremony commenced. Kane then approached the king and presented the game he developed with the Serration Company to the king. He called the game Reverse, and the king promised to hear more about the game later, inviting Kane to the parlor after the event. The ceremony continued, and Telestia saw Silk and Kane discussing something and overheard Silk asking to go on a date with Kane. This made Telestia jealous because she also wanted to have a date with Kane. Kane rejected Silk but promised her that they would go on a date someday. A key and map to Kane's mansion were given to him. Duke Eric came in with a game and wanted to play it with Cain. Everyone around was so interested that they had to join them to play the game. After they had played the game, Cain took the map and left for the mansion. He got to the mansion with the direction of the map. The place looked shabby to him. He entered the mansion. The place looked so dirty that he had to use his magic to clean it up. Sylvia and some other maid came around. A guy also introduced himself to Cain as Corin, the new butler. Sylvia ordered all other maids to start with the cleaning, but Cain made it clear to them that he had cleaned everywhere with his magic. Corin then informed that he had to go back to Master Garm's mansion as his big brothers Alec and Jean would be arriving home soon. At Master Garm's mansion, the family was at the dining table. They discussed Cain's mansion and decided they would all visit the mansion after they were done eating. Garm noticed that there was lack of art in the mansion, and it seemed like a piece of common knowledge for aristocrats to decorate their homes with art like paintings, vases, armor, and stuffed monsters. The maids saw a red stuffed dragon in the mansion. They were so scared and ran to call their master, but Master Cain made them understand that he had put it there because he defeated it. Garm and Sarah, including Riani, walked through the mansion. Garm advised Cain to throw a party to celebrate the mansion, and he left. Cain doesn't have any idea of how to plan a party, but Corin told him not to worry as he has made a list of guests and what would be needed for the occasion. He invited many people, including the higher aristocracy. On the day of the party, Silk and Telestia also came around. The party began after Cain had greeted and thanked everyone for taking time out of their busy schedule to attend the party. The king was so amazed to see the very pretty transparent glass that Cain gifted them. Everyone at the party enjoyed themselves. The Marquis also attended the party and bad-mouthed everything even though he came late, but the king insulted him and warned him against his bad attitude. Cain met the deputy commander Dime on his way to find a place to drop off the materials of the monsters. Dime had also heard about it, so they both checked out the appropriate room to put the monsters. Cain made it clear to Dime that the monster they wanted to put in the room was an earth dragon. Upon hearing that, Dime explained to Cain that the earth dragon was a monster that required an O-rank adventurer party just to kill one. Cain doesn't know much information about it, he just knew that it was a very big monster. After a few seconds, Cain brought out the earth dragon from his magic bag and dropped it. Dime was so surprised that Master Cain beat all the monsters all by himself. He asked Cain if he was just a brave man or a god apostle, but Cain told him that he was just a normal son of Margrave Garm. Dime asked if he would accompany him to train the knights because he wanted to show them the kind of stuff Cain was made of. Cain agreed and followed him to the knight. At the night get-together, Dime introduced Cain to everyone as Baron Cain, who had eliminated 30 arcs and rescued the princess. The mock battle started. An Imperial Guard was picked as Cain's opponent, but Cain won within a few seconds when the fight started. As expected of the Imperial Guild, he requested Cain to have a mock battle with all of them. As the guards pointed their sword to Cain to start the fight, their commander appeared to them and asked why they pointed sword to a little child. He thought that Cain was just a random kid who got lost and found himself there, but Dime properly introduced Cain to their commander. The commander requested to have a duel with Cain. Cain kept up with the commander. Despite using a wooden sword, he finally defeated her. The commander wanted to marry Cain because he had defeated her. Why does everyone want to marry this 10-year-old so bad? All the guilds were surprised. The commander introduced herself to Cain as Tefana von Reibold, the daughter of Duke Reibold. Cain discovered his status was given the title of Sword Saint when he had a mock battle with Tefana. He was informed that the king wanted to see him. He didn't want to go, but Commander Dime dragged him to the king. The king told him that he called him because he wanted to show him something. He gave Cain the Imperial Magic Book that is owned by the royal family. He then explained that the book was written by the first king, Ueyatera Harasawa Esfort, and that they couldn't read the book. Surprisingly, Cain was able to read the book, and he thought maybe the first king was also reincarnated like him. The king asked Cain for the very last time about who he was. Cain promised to tell the truth, but they agreed to keep it a secret between the people who were there at the time. Cain then began to tell them about his previous life. He told them that he came from the same country as the first king. He explained everything about his previous life and also his baptism. Cain apologized for not telling them all this before. The king then ordered everyone to bow when he saw Cain's status window and even asked him if he would become the king. But Cain disagreed and said that he just wants to be treated as Cain. Cain was alone in the library reading the book that was written by the first king. The first king explained how he came to the world in the book. Cain read that Yuya had an accident in Japan and was summoned to the world when he thought he had died. He came to the new world in his original form, unlike Cain. Telestia and Silk walked in, which caused Cain to quickly close the book. They thought maybe he was studying for the academic entrance exam and wanted to study with him, but he excused them by telling them that he couldn't keep their company and that he had something to do. It was finally the day Cain had waited for to register as an adventurer on his 12th birthday. He got to the guild and met a man who asked whether it was his first time entering the guild, but Cain told him that he came to register as an adventurer since he just turned 12. A young lady called Lesha welcomed him and gave Cain a form to fill. He filled it and also dropped his blood on the crystal as he was ordered. He was also told that his mana would be registered on the guild's card. Some members of the guild got into a quarrel with Cain and wanted to fight him, but he dodged all their kicks. A red-haired guy that Cain met when he first entered the guild stopped the fight by telling one of them to fight with him instead of fighting with Cain. The man was called Mr. Cain Claude, the Ice Flame. Cain and Mr. Claude chatted and had drinks together until Lena, Mr. Claude's wife, came to drag him away. Maybe she was also looking for some action. Cain preferred to kill monsters and defeat goblins in the Eastern Forest since he had registered as an adventurer. Tefana went to the Eastern Forest with Cain. They played, practiced, and also saw some green lizards, but Cain beat them all by himself. When Cain got back to the guild, he was informed that beating a green lizard all alone is a D-rank request and a C-rank request when in the group. As Cedric discussed with Cain, accusing him of fraud because he thought that he lied about killing the green lizard, Tefana walked in looking excited, and to everyone's surprise, she referred to Cain as her master. Cedric gets to know the real identity of Cain after so much introduction of Cain by others that were present. They were all surprised that a G-rank adventurer like Cain could kill 30 green lizards. Cain was ranked up to a C-rank adventurer. The gods appeared and discussed why Cain magic should be stronger, and Zenom made it clear to others that Eren would soon arrive and the world would be in danger again, so they planned to train Cain harder and harder. Cain had overslept when Sylvia barged into his room and informed him that it was an important day of his entrance exam, and she was late to wake him up. He quickly dressed and left for the exam. He got to the exam center on time as he had expected, and the exam lasted for 2 hours. It was quite easy for Cain due to his previous life reading, writing and math skills, and history was a question he understands as an aristocrat. They also did the magical exam where Cain surprised everyone by casting a fire bullet. They then moved to the swordsmanship exam site. The examiner introduced an A-rank adventurer from the guild to the students as their guest. The adventurer was Master Claude. Cain was picked as Master Claude opponent, and Cain got him down without hesitation, and the exam ended. Cain got back home. He informed Sylvia that he did well. Sylvia was very happy and suggested they throw a party. The king invited Cain and asked him why Telestia and Silk didn't see him at the exam site, but he told the king that he went to the south gate and took the exam in the classroom where he was shown. Cain explained the reason why the academy has a north and a south gate. He said the reason was because the north gate leads to the aristocrats' districts, and that the south gate leads to the commoners. The king made it clear to Cain that Telestes was upset for not agreeing to meet with him at the exam sites. Duke Eric also got the information of the wonders Cain performed at the examination sites, but he wasn't surprised when the headmaster informed him. The result of the exam finally came out and Cain topped his class. Telestia was the second and Silk was the third. They all congratulated each other. Sylvia was also very glad when she heard about it. Cain was announced to give a speech as the top class student, which he did. The king also welcomed and congratulated all the students. At the academy, Elka Von, the portrai, the homeroom teacher for the class, introduced herself to the students. She ordered them to select a course of their choice. Cain planned to take an adventure course, but he later decided to pick Noble, Adventure, Magic and Magical Tools course as advised by Silk and Telestia. Silk chose the Noble and Domestic Affair course, while Telestia chose Noble and Commerce course. Marquis was in the same academy as Cain, Telestia, and Silk. Cain met with Yuuya Terra Hirasawa Esfort, the first king. Cain opened his status and saw that he was the god of creation. He created the world called Fabrinil, and he was over 300 years, but he still looked young. Yuuya informed Cain that the 7 gods ordered him to train Cain. Cain asked Yuuya why he needed to be so strong, but Yuuya made it clear to him that he would have an opponent called the evil god of Eren who had made people kill each other all over the world by setting down oracles, planted distrust of other nations in people's subconscious, and made them fight. Yuuya gave him a compass and ordered him to get to level 600 of the mansion he pointed to in order to beat Eren, and that he was forbidden to use his teleport skill. Yuuya disappeared after he had given Cain some tasks to perform. Yuuya and Cain had a drink after he had performed his first tasks before moving into the next task. Cain woke up and found himself in an unfamiliar place. He went out and found a lady who introduced herself to him as Ruri, Doran's wife. She explained to Cain that Doran brought him home all bruised from the forest. Ruri prepared some food, and they all had their meal. Cain then began to live with them. Cain had a mock battle with Doran as part of his training after 1 year. Telestia and Silk were worried not knowing where Cain went. They waited for Master Cain at his mansion where Sylvia gave them some work to do. Cain asked his master about Eren and his previous life, and he explained to him in detail. He told him why Eren was the god of games. Yuuya advised Cain to build up his strength so that he could protect the people, and he had so much training with Doran and later ended his training. He thanked his trainers, Master Yuuya and Master Doran, and went back home. The king got the information that Cain met with the first king. He invited him and Cain showed him the weapon that Yuuya gave him, and also explained to the king the fact that Yuuya was the god of creation. Cain was also informed that he forgot to accept the request necessary for his promotion to rank A, and he was advised to do something about it so that its registration wouldn't be cancelled. Master Cain went to the guild to meet with the guild master in order to complete the necessary request in order to be promoted to a rank and for its registration not be cancelled. The guild master ordered Cain to take down some bandits who were on their way to the capital from Gracia territory. Cain agreed. He went there and defeated all the bandits. He also healed the wound of Miss Millie and Miss Nina who had struggled to fight the bandit before Cain's arrival. Cain then became an A-rank adventurer. Miss Millie and Miss Nina were invited to the academy to train the students. Looks like Cain likes to look out for his girls. Master Claude trained the student swordsmanship and later ended the training for the day. At the academy, Cain was instructed to take part in the summoning of magic and not practice alone for the day. Gat was the mage invited to train the students. He introduced himself to the students and later explained to the student about the types of summoned magic. He made the students understand that there are 2 types of summoned magic. He explained further that one magic was to establish a bond with a monster and formed a contract with it, and the other was to summon from a magic circle. After the summoned magic training, all the students practiced and tried their summoned magic, and Gat gave lessons about it until when it's Cain's turn that everything changed. He summoned the King of Darkness. The fact that Cain summoned the King of Darkness got him angry and wanted to fight Cain, not until he saw his status and surrendered. He introduced himself as Seth and told Cain to call upon him if he wanted to destroy a nation since they had contracted. He then later disappeared. At the palace, the king ordered Cain to show his status and also instructed everyone present to keep it a secret. Everyone saw that Cain had become a demigod immediately. He opened his status window, and his stats were immeasurable. Cain went to the guild to gather some information about the forest. Rudy welcomed him and explained to him that there were increasing signs of an onslaught in the forest, and that the forest was even difficult to get into because the monsters had become so savage. Cain later went to the forest after he got the information. He summoned Seth, who also helped summon Dalmatia that investigated the forest. Seth informed Cain about an onslaught. He told Cain that the monsters had begun to move in concert. Cain then ordered Claude and Nina to assemble the adventurers and left to prevent the monsters from getting into their town. Cain went to the forest with Seth and Dalmatia. He met Aaron and the game began. The other adventurers, including Miss Millie and Miss Nina, also went to the forest to meet Cain. Seth summoned the 4 heavenly kings and informed them about the fact that he wanted to help Cain and that they should keep everything under control. A black dragon attacked Cain, but Miss Nina called upon the ice blizzard. Miss Millie and other also used their magic, and they all fought together until the monsters fled into the forest and the town became safe. They all left with joy since they had won. The king was also excited. He granted Cain a domain of his own as a reward for his exploits and for the future of Telestia, which he gave Cain to marry. Cain was granted the domain of Dorenthal, and known by the name Cain von Silford Dorenthal, he promised to devote himself in full governing of the domain and left for Dorenthal. That is where the story ends. Thanks for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe for more, and I will see you in the next recap.